Swift for our World Media Magazine. I'm here in Harlem speaking with Clayton Banks and Bruce Lincoln, which is a very interesting set of young men. They're working here in Harlem with the Silicon Harlem. And one of the things I would really like to know, what is Silicon Harlem about for the people that don't know?
Well, first of all, it's great to be on your show. It's exciting to be a part of our world. It's like wonderful. And for us, Silicon Harlem is all about transforming Harlem into a tech and innovation hub. One of the things that we've realized over the years is if you're going to drive an economic engine in the 21st century, it's going to require an embracing of technology and innovation in a way that it starts new companies, it creates new jobs, it even helps to facilitate education opportunities. So Harlem is poised, it's like the greatest village on the planet with the greatest people, and in order for it to thrive and be sustainable into the 21st century, it has to be galvanized around technology, around digital inclusion, and create economic prosperity for all. So we, Bruce and I, and Silicon Harlem have really focused on that. You know, having tech backgrounds ourselves, having benefited from the tech industry, we know how important it is for a community to embrace that to move forward. So that's really the essence of Silicon Harlem.
Okay, I remember just a few minutes ago we were talking, and I said 54 years ago, I saw in the public library up in Harlem the new Harlem of what it would look like. And so this is not something that just came up in the past 20 years. This is something that's been in the making, I would say 54 years. It's just that now everything is coming together with everybody can see the transformation of Harlem. How did this come about for you, Bruce?
Well, I've been involved in technology since 1985, and it's always been focused on making sure the technology benefits people of color. And that carried over into the deployment of the internet, especially in 1995, when the focus was on making sure that was in Harlem schools. So I happened to have the opportunity to work at the Institute for Learning Technologies, and we had a project funded by the Department of Commerce under the Clinton administration to make sure that the first schools, in fact, in the country that were connected to the internet were in Harlem. And it was through that project, in fact, an expansion of that, and that's how I met Clayton back in 1998.
Oh, so you have
we
a
worked on a project.
working relationship. You have
Yes.
a long-term working relationship. That's great. Was it very difficult to bring some of these projects to Harlem? Because I know Harlem has been made up of a lot of, young people, but a lot of older generations.
It's a good question, and I'm still flabbergasted that you can go back 54 years, because you certainly aren't even that, like a teenager here. I don't know what you're talking about.
Thank you.
But the reality is technology is hard everywhere. It's not easy anywhere. And the difference is those who are committed to pushing new technologies, working with new technologies. But what's really interesting, if you go back, as you said, and historically look at it, companies like Bell Labs, who has been known to be tech forward on every front, has always embraced diversity, has looked at putting African Americans and women in those teams that are creating new products and services. So it's not so much where you are as it is you developing the skills to do what you're going to do, or have the imagination, curiosity to try something new. But what we do know is that it requires leadership. So when you are looking at a community, whether it's Milwaukee or West Baltimore or Ferguson or Gary, Indiana, or Detroit, when you're looking at a Harlem, a hyper-local area of a larger city, the question becomes, are we getting the same equity, right, with technology and innovation as other parts of the city, other parts of the state, other parts of the country? And the difference there is just simply leadership. It's not an issue of intelligence. It's not an issue of age. It's not even an issue of where we are. The issue is, have you been granted the access and the exposure to push technology within your community, to attract businesses into your community that have a vested interest, to educate your young people. Technology is not a profession. Technology is an industry. And within that industry are companies. Within those companies are careers. Those careers can range from design to programming. So the idea for us is, how do we put the leadership in place to ensure that a community like Harlem, for example, has a voice at the table that sits with the mayor when the mayor is talking about, how do I drive New York City, for example, into a smart city, where we're actually able to collect data all around the city to solve problems, whether that's water problems, whether that's safety problems, whether that's health problems, education, employment. If Harlem is not at that table, then we'll be last to receive whatever benefits come from those conversations.
I saw somewhere that the borough president from Manhattan is very much involved with Silicon Harlem. What has she brought to the table?
Well, Gale Brewer actually has been an advocate of technology deployed in an equitable fashion since when I was talking about that earlier project in 1995. So she's always been a supporter of the work of that institute I spoke of my work, of Clayton's work. So what she has been this tireless advocate who really has a 20-year track record of ensuring that Harlem is not left behind by technology. She's been a tireless advocate as far as how to solve the problem of the digital divide. And her commitment is unwavering. So that's what she brings to the table. She, in fact, recognized both Clayton and I in 2015 during Black History Month and gave us both proclamations which declared one day as Clayton Banks Day and one day as Bruce Lincoln Day.
Beautiful. Now, do you feel that Harlem has been left behind at all? Do you feel that way, or do you feel that with other communities across the country, you're in just as good standard?
Well, I would say it's a little bit of both. If you look at the history of Harlem, Harlem has been out front when it comes to the use of technology, from computers in schools to the internet in schools. But what happens is, which differentiates it from other communities, is it's hard to get the capital which you can concentrate, which could then create a Silicon Alley or a Silicon Valley. So that's why we decided to take advantage of the unique set of factors that were coming together at this point in time and create Silicon Harlem. So it's not that we don't have the advanced minds, the skilled individuals, and we've got a Columbia University here and a City College here. But what happens is you don't have that agglomeration of finance capital, which then allows for innovations to take hold and be turned into the types of companies that we read about every day in the news.
Okay, there's two sets of people that I'm concerned about. That's the senior citizens and the youth. I go to school, the computers and everything is in the schools, but now what happens when you come home I'm talking about the average poor person's home life. How many have access to the computer? Besides, they have access to a cell phone, but I'm talking about a real computer to come home and really do their work without going to the library. Where are we at in that?
So it's a good follow-up to your first question about that, which is, has Harlem been left behind in any kind of way? Mm-hmm. And my short answer is yes, in some ways it has been. And in those two examples is perfect, right? So if Harlem has areas of poverty, and it does in some parts of it, there's certainly parts that are not, but in those areas, those homes cannot afford the cost of broadband. And broadband is essential to the quality of life of any household, including, as you're mentioning, young people being able to do work in their schools. So the statistic comes out that 78, I believe it's almost 80% of homework requires an internet connection. If you do not have it at home, we call that a homework gap because you cannot get your work done. That's a problem. So that problem has to be solved. It's going to have to be solved through additional providers to create competitive pricing. It's got to be solved in a way that people can afford it. It's, for us, we believe it's so important that it needs to be categorized as a utility, and it needs to be thought of as a civil right practically. So we think it's really important. Senior citizens, very similar. They need it because all health records are being moved online. All your services that you're getting from the government are going to be moved online. If you as a senior citizen are not unable to afford that connection, you literally keep missing out on catering to your health. So we're very concerned that those type of vulnerable communities that you point out are getting the sort of attention that it deserves. So we're very focused on working with the city on programs such as computers for all, making sure people are getting devices, making sure we're working with the federal government on laws that help people get low-cost internet access. There's a lot of moving parts, but it can be solved.
Now, one part that I'm going to address because it sort of affects me, and I'm virtually on the senior citizens crossroad right now. As far as as you said, a lot of the documentation is online, even for Social Security benefits and so
That's right.
forth and so forth. Now, are the senior citizens up to date with the technology to access it?
Well,
It's not
the good-
just having the computer in the house, but how do we get this started? How does it work?
That's a good question. The good news is seniors are not seniors anymore, right? So they're vibrant and young and thinking and curious and just as relevant today as any human being on earth. So that's the good news about our seniors in this era. And the seniors after them will even be more savvy, and the seniors after them will even be more savvy. So the good news is we're on a good trajectory. The challenge that we have is to make sure that all are included. So what that means at Silicon Harlem is that we want to put in programs, and we've already done this, to what we call demystify technology for senior citizens. So seniors don't look at technology and go, that's not for me. Oh, I don't know anything about it. I'll get my grandchildren to do this for me. None of that needs to happen if they come through some of the programs we're instantiating. But there's also great programs in and around New York City that focus on.
What are some of them, and where are they?
You got the Oats folks.
Well, you have Older Adults Technology Services. That's the main organization. But also, we do a series of workshops for seasoned individuals, as Clayton likes to call them. And that is facilitated through Gale Brewer's office. But we've even worked with groups like Perscolis and Urban Transport Communications, where a number of years ago we did a technology fair just for seniors. It was tied into the normal NYCHA Seniors Fair. We basically added the technology component and exposed 1,200 seniors to technology. So we try to make sure that both the seniors and the young people get the kind of programs that make sense for them. But it's all driven by this philosophy that we have of high tech and high touch. Not only are you able to get your hands on the technology, but we have a lot of folks helping you. And a lot of them are the younger people who are helping the older people use the technology. And, there's a long way to go. We aren't able to sort of scale this to the mass level, but the models are there.
Where do you see Silicon Harlem in the next 5 years, both of you?
Well, there's a couple things. One, we want to certainly see, and we'll be launching an initiative in October. We want to see Harlem be one of the most connected communities in the world, and that is a connectivity through broadband. So we are very focused ourselves on helping to facilitate that. We are proficient in networking and rolling out connectivity ourselves, so we'll be doing that. So within the next 5 years, you're going to see people literally having connections that normally wouldn't because of affordability, because we're going to be able to offer some alternatives. The other thing we think is going to be very important is for us to build an infrastructure in Harlem where It's the 21st Century Community Center where people could come in and make things and share ideas and really start to foster what Bruce just talked about, a corridor of innovation right here in Harlem. So people all around the world will want to come to Harlem if they want to see something get done.
I know they wanted to come because I see the tour buses.
Second most toured location in New York City after the Empire State Building is Harlem.
I'm not going to keep you, gentlemen, but I do have one final question for you.
Let me add a little something to what he just said as well, which is important. Not only do we want to see it where in the homes you now have the type of affordable internet, as well as this central exchange accessing technology that he referred to as a community resource center. We want to make sure that every school in Harlem, and in fact every school that serves people of color in the city of New York, is exposed to computer science for all. We want to make sure that all the STEM courses and that the next generation of STEM leadership, both from how you're going to go off to the top schools, as well as how you're going to start the next tech startup, that is based on the fact that when you're in kindergarten to 12th grade, you can gain access to all the best programming. And that means having the best trained teachers as well who are teaching STEM curricula to our young people. So it's a comprehensive internet everywhere strategy.
One final question is this. It's a personal question. What have you not done that you would like to accomplish, Clayton and Bruce? What would you?
As it relates to Silicon Harlem? Or just in
Business,
life general?
Just life in general.
Well, Bruce likes to say we both would like to dance and sing like Michael Jackson, but that ain't happening. No, listen, there's a lot of things I want to get accomplished, and I feel like I'm on that road to being a constant, we're on a constant move towards these things. So for me, on my personal bucket list, if you will, is I want to be living and working in an all gigabit atmosphere. What that means is the broadband is the fastest in the world, and I'd like to see everyone around me and everyone in the community operating on the same platform, which is, like I said, a gigabit platform. Hasn't happened yet. We think we can make that happen in the next 5 years or so. So that's very important for my bucket list. The other is to create a world, if you will, where it's limitless, right? It's the only limit is your own mind. So we want to close all gaps: education gaps, income gaps, crime gaps, language gaps. All these things that are holding our world back from the ultimate sort of world we can have. It's sort of our world is what I'm really looking towards.
Okay. Thank you so much, Clayton and Bruce, for this lovely interview. I hope everybody watching can get a better idea of what Silicon Harlem is about. And is there a way that they can reach you?
You can reach us at siliconharlem.net. You can email us at info@siliconharlem.net. And keep this in mind, save this date, October 21st, 2016, that's a Friday, so no excuses. We will be holding a comprehensive tech conference, all taking place in Harlem. That's Friday, October 21st, 2016, at a location called My Image Studios, which is MIST for short, on 116th Street in Harlem. Go to the website, check it out. We'd love to see you all there.
Thank you.
We look forward to seeing you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.